Cobain always did like the idea of having a second guitarist in Nirvana, and they had tried that in the Bleach days, when they employed Jason Everman as the second guitarist of Nirvana. He was credited on the Bleach album, although never played a single note on that record. Although, funnily enough, he did end up paying the $606 used to record the album. Ultimately, he would play some live shows with the band, but was only with them for a short time. And so we come to 1993, and after the recording of the In Utero album, Kurt was really wanting to have that second guitarist back again to help play the more technical guitar parts on the record and fill out their live sound. And to do this, they employed former Germs guitarist Pat Smear. It was Courtney Love who made this all come about. She knew Pat. Kurt, Chris, and Dave did not, although they really did like his band, the Germs. And Smear himself was a big Nirvana fan too. So it was Courtney Love who really got the gig for Pat Smear in Nirvana.
And then he was on welfare, and then I got him a job in Nirvana. Nice to me, wasn't it? Kurt was like, I wanted a guitar player, and I was like, oh my God, Pat. And he goes, Pat. And I was like, Pat. And it was like, just instant.
So he didn't have to try out for the band. There were no auditions or anything like that. He knew Courtney, he was in the Germs, and that was enough. He was just put straight into Nirvana.
Kurt calls me up to come play in his band. I've never met Chris and Dave, and I haven't played with any of y'all. And he's like...
And that's what Pat was thinking, but Kurt said, nope, come on, you're in the band, everything will be fine. And there's a funny story that goes along with Pat right before he met the band for the first time. Basically, he was going to meet up with the band, and they were going to get together and have a meal at a restaurant. And this was the night before the band would have their first ever rehearsal, which would be on the following day. And Pat was kind of packing himself because he didn't have any money, had like $12 in his pocket, and he was so worried about going to this restaurant because he wasn't going to be able to afford to buy anything. And so he gets to the restaurant, meets up with Kurt, Chris, and Dave.
I don't know why, $12 or whatever I had on me, and I was so scared to order anything.
But it all ended up working out okay because somebody pulled out a Nirvana credit card, and Pat was so surprised to see this. He didn't even know something like that existed, let alone a band he was about to join.
And we got this guy, Pat Smear, who's in the Germs.
So with the release of In Utero, Nirvana were going out to play what was really their first ever arena tour. Sure, they had played arena shows before, but this was the first time they were doing a full-on arena tour, and as we say, they really wanted to fill out that live sound, and Kurt, as we know, was always keen to have that second guitarist in the band. Cobain said, when we play live, we lack a lot of things, because I have to concentrate on so many different areas at once. Kurt explained how this would affect his participation with the audience, because he just had so many things to do.
Because I'm concentrating on my guitar, and I have to remember the lyrics, and I have to remember to push these little buttons down on my fuzz pedals and stuff. I'm expected to do like 6 things at once. And so just adding another guitar player is totally a relief. It just really helps. It's great.
Pat Smear's first show with Nirvana would be on Saturday Night Live in September of 1993, where they played 2 songs from In Utero, Heart-Shaped Box and Rape Me. The songs sounded great, and as Dave Grohl said, Pat just breathed a whole new life into the band.
I mean, for the last year of the band, it was like, it made the band a lot more fun to be in, having Pat in the band.
Cobain was asked in a 1993 interview, moving forward, whether or not Pat Smear would become a permanent member of Nirvana. He stated that they hadn't written any songs together yet, but he would be keen on having Pat as a member of the band.
We haven't tried to write any songs together yet. I'd like him to be, actually. I mean, he's so much fun to be around. And it's just been so great being on tour with him, you know. I'd like it to be a reality, but who knows.
In the end, though, Pat Smear would only spend around 6 months in Nirvana. He played his final show with the band on March 1st, 1994. That, of course, was the final time Nirvana would ever play live, with the following month in April, of course, their lead singer Kurt Cobain tragically passing away. Interestingly, in a 2013 interview, Pat Smear was asked what he thought would have happened to Nirvana if Cobain hadn't have died. He said, "I don't see why Nirvana would not have kept going. Even if the band had broken up for a while, so many bands these days seem to get back together. It's like no band has really broken up. So I think Nirvana would still be going." And in that same interview, he reminisced on some of his time in Nirvana. Talking about the band's set list, Smear said, "But I did get to pick a song for inclusion. David Bowie's The Man Who Sold the World. Kurt knew I was a big Bowie fan, so he said to me, 'Let's play a Bowie song.' I knew that it had to be a track from The Man Who Sold the World, the album. But I don't think the title track was my first choice. It was the one we settled on, though."
Hi, I'm Pat, Foo Fighters, rhythm guitar. That's the important one.
After the death of Cobain, Smear seriously considered giving up music altogether. However, with Dave Grohl starting up his new band Foo Fighters, Smear was thrust back into the music world, finding himself a home with his former Nirvana bandmate. The initial run with Foo Fighters was just a short one, just a couple of years. He left in '97, took some time off, but came back to the band in 2005 and is still playing with them to this very day. And I always thought that was pretty cool how Grohl hired Smear to be in Foo Fighters. It was kind of like a continuation in some sense, having two former Nirvana bandmates now in this new band together. So I thought that was pretty cool. So there it goes, guys. Pat Smear and his journey with Nirvana. A pretty short one in the end. Probably would have gone on a lot longer. Could have, of course, if things had have turned out differently. In fact, just before I go, you know the Nirvana song, You Know You're Right? That was recorded at the end of January of '94. Now, it was said that Kurt had actually sent Pat a cassette of the recording, and he wanted him to play some extra guitar parts on that track as well. But that never ended up happening. But all in all, Pat Smear definitely a positive influence on the band. Everybody thought so. Everybody was glad to have him there. Relieved Kurt somewhat on stage with everything he had to do, and all in all was just a positive influence on the band. So there it is, guys. Share your thoughts in the comments section on Pat Smear and Nirvana. Thanks heaps for tuning in as always. We'll catch you on the next one.